Let's get sweaty.
Hey guys, welcome to another Shenmue Dojo video. I hope you're doing well. Today, as I have done for the last few videos in fairness, I want to talk a bit about Shenmue 4. But not Kickstarter, not if buts and maybes, just essentially what I'd like from it. Again, this is just my opinion on it. I'm sure you guys will have many opinions on what we want from a Shenmue 4. But I'm going to break this down into a few little areas, go over some bullets and talk about these essentially and see where we end up. So, the 4 points I'm going to cover really are story progression. I think that's probably the most important. The gameplay loop, the fighting system, and the overall presentation of the game. Okay? So first and foremost, story. Yeah, let's be honest. Shenmue 3, as much as I enjoyed it, and a lot of us did, it struggled in this area. It didn't move things on quite as well as we'd hoped, and it sort of left everything to the end. So we need to see an improvement here in terms of how the story is presented, how it moves things forward, and where we go. So what do I want is story content with it. Now that's a big question here. One of the big things I want is to see Zimming for the first time. And that link with Nielsen. Remember the comics for Shenmue 2 in the Xbox days? We see Zimming sort of sat there thinking about his sister and how that comes together. And linking into that, I do wonder whether Ewing will finally catch up if she has followed us. Because that would make sense that Zimming's there, Ewing's there, and they could be reunited. Ewing could have to take down her brother. He could to save Ryo. It could be any number of possibilities there. But I want to see that dynamic there. Because Zimming is on the evil path in inverted commas, but could he come back from that? Could Ryo pull him back? Could his sister pull him back? Who knows? Obviously, Shenmue 3 then ends at the Cliff Temple. They're walking towards it. So the big thing here is what the hell is going to go down at the Cliff Temple? How are they getting there? That's another question. But what's going down here? Now, when you think to the Project Berkeley stuff here, you see Shenfire with her powers, where she sort of busts these guys off of her. You see that big head opening, and Landy looks quite worried about it at the time. So I'd wonder if that might come into it from the Project Berkeley video. The other thing I'm going to have here is, alongside that, is Ryo and his character development. Now, bear in mind, we've had 3 games here. He can't touch Landy yet from a kung fu standpoint. He's not skilled enough. And we know this lust for revenge is running high. It has dissipated in time, but it is sort of very up and down. But for me, I think Ryo needs to have a defining moment here around his vengeance. This is going to have an implication, a ramification, a repercussion. He can't just keep getting away with it. Well, you think Shenmue 1, Nozomi got saved. Shenmue 2, obviously, Wong, Joy, etc. got saved, and they took down Donio. Shenmue 3, he saved Shenfire and barely escaped the castle. Something's got to happen here. There's got to be some sort of ramification here, a direct consequence of his actions, if you like. Now, my main theory on this is that Ren will die because of Ryo. He will save Ryo's life again, but this time at the expense of his own life. And Ryo, in his mourning, will have his sort of epiphany moment that he realises that this path of vengeance is not the way to go because it's costing him his friends, it's costing him the people around him. And then that you might see his character change, his abilities start to grow a little bit, and then we see Ryo's journey sort of coming full circle almost, that he gets better, he gets ready to confront Landy but not kill him, and there's a different take of that. So I'd be very interested to see how that plays out. Essentially that theory of Ren, I've talked about it for a long time. I hope it doesn't happen because I like Ren, but I could see that path going down. The next thing I want to see in the story content is the Chi Men. We've done all these little side gangs now, and with all due respect, I'm done with the side gangs now. This needs to focus in on the Chi Men, the threat they carry, all the mysticism around this organisation. Who are they? What are they? What about this infighting between Landy and Nielsen? What about the other 2 leaders as well? Are we going to see them here as well? They need to go into the inner workings of the Chi Men here and see how this sort of plays out, the politics, all the rest of it. How is that going to play out in a Shenmue 4? Building on that, and it might link together quite nicely, is the mythology, the lore behind the mirrors. Are we going to see more of that? Are we going to see more of that history? Are we going to see more of a WoW in China and what happened to him with the mirrors and how he got them back to Japan? Is that going to come into this as well? And lastly, I think it's character development. I want to see that dynamic between Ren, Ryo and Shenfire expand. I also want to see Rio's character move on. I would also like to see more character development, possibly around Landy and his history and how he came to be, and also like I said, the inner workings of the Chi men. So I've just covered sort of some very wide-ranging story elements, and as I say, this isn't budget related or anything. I'm not even thinking about budget here, really. I'm just thinking about the things I'd like to see. So, part story content is probably the biggest part here. Gameplay. I'm okay, quite frankly, with the gameplay loop in Shenmue 3. I'd like the systems refined a little bit. Rather than having the token system for gambling, I'd rather be able to gamble straight up for money. Obviously, gambling laws in countries, etc. may define differently, but the systems there, they can use it if they want to. Mini games are a must, but I don't think they need to go overboard here. They can use the ones from Shenmue 3, maybe add in 1 or 2 more, and then Bob's your uncle. Wood chopping needs to come back for me all day long. And some really good gambling games need to come back to allow you to earn some money pretty quickly. Money barriers is then the next thing, consequently, I'm talking about here. Quite frankly, they've been done and done to death. Get rid. Just no. I've had enough of money barriers now. I don't mind it if it's a side content thing and you want to enter a tournament, fighting tournament, something like that, for example. But to slow story progression, nah, it's got to go. I'm sorry, it's got to go. Now, in terms of gameplay modes here, what I'd like to also see is potentially a Shenmue mode and a modern mode. Hear me out on this one. So the Shenmue mode is essentially what us old school hardcore Shenmue fans have played since the first game 20 years ago. Even new people have picked it up recently. But a more modern mode might offer a bit more of a modernised approach in terms of the way the game presents itself. You get a bit more guidance, hand-holding, whatever it needs to be. And then you can choose that at the start of the game. So you're not alienating the old fans by having that non-selective, but you're not alienating new people as well. And within that, they're going to need to find a way to link the previous 3 games' story into the 4th game and get people caught up. Obviously, the anime could catch people up for the first 2 games, but then you still got Shenmue 3 to get through as well. But when they modernise this thing, it has to be done within the Shenmue spirit. What I don't want them to do is just turn it to Yakuza, because that's not Shenmue, and I think it would suffer more by going down that road, because it would then just get compared to it even more. Shenmue's strengths are in its world building, which is absolutely phenomenal, and its character building around the story, if they can do it properly. Those are 2 massive strengths, that this game can draw you into its story and put you in the shoes of the protagonist. That's what they need to draw on here. They don't need to throw in loads of fighting as you walk down the street or whatever. Obviously, there could be some sort of elements drawn from Yakuza if they feel like it's a good idea. You know, you can look at text-based NPCs, for example, if budget's really tight. You could also look at the way it presents itself and moves things forward in terms of the way it's written. But broadly speaking, Shenmue needs to play on its strengths, maybe borrow little bits from other games, but play on its strengths, modernise itself around its strengths. That is critical. If it doesn't, we end up in a problem. Moving away from gameplay, but linked to it, I guess, is the fighting system. There has been a clamour from people to get the Virtual Fighter system back. I understand it. It's a great system. I don't think it lends itself well to multi-man battles. I think it's better one-on-one. From a personal standpoint, I think the new system's better towards your multi-man battles. But unless Sega get involved with this game, that isn't going to come back. And that's just the fact of it, because they're going to have to pay for the license for it. And quite frankly, why would you pay for a license for something to implement it when you've already got a system in place? It doesn't make a lot of sense unless you've got a shed load of money that allows you to do this. But within that fighting system, throws absolutely have to come back. Now, Yu Suzuki did talk about this in 2020, that he wants the throws to come back. Great, they have to come back. Ryo is a jiu-jitsu martial artist at the end of the day. It's the basis of his fighting style. If that's not there, then it's going to feel a little bit weird. They need to get rid of some of the input lag. I could see it, but I know people generally had a bit of an issue with it. So they need to look at a way of the inputs and how that doesn't lag. I'd like some better hit detection and physics around those hits. The fighting system flows really well when you get into the combinations and you work out what you're doing around it. And the blocking's quite nice. But if you add in throws as well, You can have better physics. You can like tug on people for like the counter elbow or something, things like that. But also those hits need to carry impact. And with all due respect, in Shenmue 3, the cutscenes where the martial arts is done are fantastic. But the fighting system element of it, I think, needs refining around those physics, around the hit detection, the impact of those hits, and how good it looks. It wasn't far away. They just need to refine it. And within that as well, QTEs, the window needs to be broadened out a bit, because they were really hard in Shenmue 3. I'm sure we can all agree on that one. And the last thing here is I'd like a bit more explanation around how the system works. Mashing buttons isn't really going to do it in the modern age. And while I've got the patience to fiddle around and play with it and work things out, other people probably don't, and they'll get bored with it or annoyed by it. So there needs to be more of a tutorial basis in there. That could be linked to the Shenmue mode or modern mode, for example. But they're going to need to think about that. And then the final thing I want to talk about is the game's presentation. Now, Shenmue 3 has some amazing looking environments. They are stunning. It's a very distinctive art style, but nonetheless, I think that art style for the environments holds up really, really well. Chuck that in Unreal 5, update it, boom, you're into a good thing here. The models generally are okay. I thought Landi's model in Shenmue 3 was excellent. Shenfa, if you put her in her original clothes, I think you'd be fine. Ren's model was really good as well, actually. Ryo's model divides opinion. I didn't have a problem with it, and actually when you look at the artwork stuff behind me and then you look at the Shenmue 1 and 2 covers, it's not too dissimilar to the models from the Dreamcast, and I think somewhere, and I have to do some research on this, it was loosely based on the Passport model. I could be wrong. I need to look on the forums and double check that, so don't hold me to that. But they will need to refine the models and bring them up a little bit and reduce the inconsistencies in the NPC models, for example, because some of them look quite good, others not so good. So they're going to need to reduce that inconsistency a little bit. And essentially, it was a fair criticism, and they need to bring that back. And then things like the HUD, I think that needs refining a little bit. That's a bit messy, I think. But I can see why the way it worked. It's loosely based on the original games, but it doesn't feel quite as tight. And the other thing I'm going to say right now as my final point, and it's a very minor thing, but I had a bit of a bugbear with this, is the title screen and the menu. It just felt a little bit meh, is the way I would use it. Go back to the old menu scheme. That was lovely. And actually, in fact, there was a menu or front screen promoted for Shenmue 3 back during the Kickstarter, and it looked really, it might be in fact after the Kickstarter, and it looked really nice. But they didn't use it in the end. So those are just a few points around what I'd want from a Shenmue 4. I could talk about this for a long time, but I just want to make this quite snappy video around some of the points I'm thinking about that are in my head right now. Guys, what do you want from a Shenmue 4? Is story the number one thing? What else do you want from it? Do you want some new features that I haven't talked about or thought about, for example? If so, what could they be? Drop us a comment in YouTube and let us know. We'll talk about them. I might pick some of these up in a separate video down the line. But if you want Shenmue 4, 4th of every month, hashtag Let's Get Shenmue 4. We'll be on Twitter. You know what you should be doing by now, but if you're new to that, 4th of every month on Twitter, we basically harass people for Shenmue 4 because we're not going away until we get the end of this story. But guys, thank you for engaging in the content as always. There'll be more videos to follow, but for now, take care. Have a good one.